Welcome back, mathematicians. We're going to talk a bit about fractions and decimals in today's review. This question says, shade each grid to help you write the following fractions as decimals. So as we said, both fractions and decimals. And remember, the problems on these reviews are very similar to the ones you'll see on your tests. But you didn't hear from me. You didn't hear from me. I'm revealing all our teacher secrets. Oh, good thing you're watching the video carefully. And I know you're going to review these problems carefully. Make sure you understand and ask your teachers questions if you have them before the test so that you can go in feeling confident and prepared. Let's try these out. So if I had 2/10, in this case, my whole is a flat, which has 100 pieces in it. So if I shade in 1/10, that means I have to shade in 10 pieces. So that was 1/10, but I was asked for 2/10. So I'm going to go ahead and shade in 2/10. And now you could see, even though this was 2/10, this was also equal to how many hundredths? Could you fill in that numerator? 20 hundredths. And we've shown that visually if you counted up each unit, but we could also use the power of the equivalent fractions rule, right? This was times 10 in the denominator and times 10 in the numerator. So we know those are equal. So there are two ways to write this. I could either write my decimal as 2/10, or I could write it as 20 hundredths. And those two are the same exact thing. Okay, let's go ahead and try the next one. Now it wants 40 hundredths. Okay, so now it gave it to me out of 100. So I know I need to shade in 40 of these. So I'm going to count by tens again, just to make it easier for me. 10, 20, 30, 40 out of 100. My shading wasn't as beautiful. No, you'll do a more careful job than that, but you get the idea. 40 hundredths, and I can write this as 40 hundredths. I go to my hundredths place. Can you figure out what that would be, what this fraction would be in terms of tenths? That's right. We shaded in 4/10. You might have also thought of it, instead of the visual model, using the equivalent fractions rule. I divided by 10 in the denominator, and I divided by 10 in the numerator. So if you'd like, you could also say equals 4/10. Now that 4 is in the tenths. Well, the 4 was always in the tenths place, but now I don't put anything in my hundredths place. Either way is correct. You would earn full credit. And then the last one, 50 hundredths. So I might be saying 50 hundredths. I know that is equal to how many tenths? Good, 5/10, because we divided by 10. Or you might even have thought of a simpler fraction, 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead and shade in half of these, or I like to do it in terms of tenths. That's why I just keep track. So I'm at 3/10 right now, 4/10 right now, 5/10, and I can kind of check my picture because good, that looks like a half is shaded. So I'm in good shape. I'm going to write my decimal in hundredths, 50 hundredths. That looks good, right? Or if I wanted to, I also know I could write it as tenths and just plain old 5/10. All those would be correct. Let's do one more problem together. Write a fraction and a decimal for the circle. So if I look at this, I'm going to count there 1, 2, 3, 4, and times 2. So 8 total pieces. So I'll give my fraction a denominator of 8, and I'll say there are 4/8 of the fraction shaded. Now, you might have also written this as 1/2. Maybe you saw that right away, that it was 1/2. So now, how can I write my decimal? Like usually when I have a decimal, I want it to be out of tenths or out of hundredths, right? Like we were just practicing. But here I have 1/8 and 1/2. Well, don't worry. you can use the power of the equivalent fractions rule. Or you could just use the math in your head too. I'm going to use the equivalent fractions rule. I say, okay, from 2 to 10, I had to multiply by 5 because I know I want to give this a denominator of tenths so that I can write it as a decimal. So then whatever I multiply in the denominator, I also multiply in the numerator. 1 times 5 is 5. And you probably knew, hey, 5/10, yeah, of course, that's the same as a half. So not so bad to write this as a decimal. Now that we have tenths, we know there are 5/10. And you're all set. You're going to practice some problems very similar to these ones on Seesaw. Make sure you understand them and can really explain your thinking, because these will show up again on your test in similar types of problems. Who said that? What? I'm giving away all my secrets again, so it's probably time to stop the recording. Good luck, mathematicians.